So you want to be a writer. Maybe you've got a story to tell, but now what? Welcome to the Author Strong podcast, where we'll take you from the first page to being a published author by providing you with the tools you need to succeed. Now welcome your hosts, Matt Morris and Nancy Elliott.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Author Strong podcast, where we give writers the tools they need to succeed. Matt Morris here, and as always, I'm joined by Nancy Elliott. Nancy, how's it going?
It's going pretty awesome. How about you guys?
I'm doing great. We are also joined, as you kind of hinted there. We are. It's our live show, so everyone can see us right now if you're watching live. But we are joined by Zach Bohannon. Zach, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on again. Lower third or not, I'm here. So.
I know, right?
And that
stupid hangouts.
Zach Bohannon, despite there's no lower third and there's no Wookiee.
Yeah, he's out in the garage.
But so. It is you. I'm pretty confident that it's you. In fact, there's actually everything different about you right now. You got a different mic. There's no lower third. You got no Wookiee. Maybe it isn't the real you.
Sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Not sure.
I guess I should have brought Chewbacca back, but you know, he's out in the garage. So
it's okay. Zach, I wanted to welcome you back to the show. You've been on the show a couple of times now, and I think you're the first returning person to do 2 live shows with us. So you were on with Mimi Strong back in June.
Woo.
Which, yeah, how many months ago was that? 3? I don't even know.
I think so.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
We're on back in
I'm not
June.
sure.
All the excitement. But so
yeah, I think that was like. Yeah, wasn't that like episode 49, and you guys are on like 320 now or something?
313, yeah.
Okay.
By the time this comes out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So welcome back to the show. Thanks for doing it again. Thanks for coming back on. You've been doing a lot of really cool stuff. To catch up our listeners a little bit, if they haven't listened to episodes with you in the past, you were one of the first people that we interviewed on the show. You were part of like the launch group of people that we interviewed before the show even came out, and a couple exciting things about you. You just started publishing this year, so you know I think you published your first novel in January, and then if I'm correct, you just published your 5th title for the year.
Yeah, that's correct. That's
Ooh.
right. Yeah.
Man,
he makes us both look like slackers, like put together, Nancy.
I'm not even registering on this scale. I'm still crawling up the side.
I'm not either, and I'm a full-time writer, so he's outpublished me easily so far this year. But that's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun, and it's funny, Matt. You know, it's something that you mentioned. I think in a group we're in, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you know, I do have a full-time job and I have family commitments and stuff. So you know, I have to make the most out of my writing time, and you know, I kind of question if I was full time, you know, if I would have done this, but you know, because I feel a little bit more motivated with all the little bit of time I have, but yeah, I put out my first novel in February, and it was like right at the tail end of January, early February, and yeah, I just released my 5th book, which was the 3rd book in that particular series, and then I have 2 standalones as well, and I've put out a couple of short stories as well, but yeah, it's been nuts. It's been a crazy year.
That is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
And your first one came out in February. I was thinking it came out in January. So.
Yeah, it was right. I think it was like February 2nd or something. So pretty much January.
Yeah, that is impressive. Congratulations. We are in a couple groups, and this is probably something that Nancy's seeing a little bit more of now that she's writing more full time. I don't want to say full time, but more full time than more full time than you were last month. So this is your first month really going at it, but I see it mentioned quite a bit, and I think the realization is that when people do start writing full time, despite having more time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're writing more. And it really comes down to structure and structuring your life. And when you are busier, then you tend to get more done. And so I know that theme has come up a number of times in a number of groups where just because you have a lot of time during the day doesn't mean you're spending all of that time writing. And
right.
Even when you're on a limited amount of time, sometimes that's what you need to help prioritize and help schedule and everything and help get things done. So either way, though, writing full-time or even having a job and a newborn and a wife and all of the other things, still managing to put out 5 novels. We're not even done with the year. We're not even done with the quarter yet. 3rd quarter, right? And so you get 3 more months out of the year. I don't know if you're planning on getting anything else out there. Is that your intent? Are you trying to write book 6?
Yeah, it's so I just reached the halfway point today on Empty Bodies 4. So Empty Bodies is my post-apocalyptic zombie series. And I reached the halfway point today on book 4. I actually got a little bit behind the eight ball because I started a collaboration with Jay Thorne, and I got about 15,000 words in. I was writing the whole first draft. And I got about 15,000 words in and emailed him. I had a couple of days where I had trouble going to the keyboard wanting to write it. I was just like, I wasn't feeling really inspired. And I ended up emailing him and saying, look, dude, I'm not feeling this. I think we need to go a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I lost a little bit of time there. I mean, 15,000 words. I mean, I generally write about 1,500 to 2,000 words a day. So that was every day for me counts. So that was a little bit of lost time, and not to mention all the pre-production that went into that book. But we decided to go a different direction, and it's I think it's going to be well worth it in the end, and we'll be real happy about it. But yeah, so I'll have at least one book out by the end of the year. I plan on having Empty Bodies 4 should be out no later than December 1st. So I'm messing around with some stuff. I'm not going to do a extended pre-order like I've done for the last 2 books.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to mess around with trying to do it a little bit closer to release. I might do a pre-order for about a week, and then to kind of get the algorithms and stuff and charging a little bit, and then really hit my list and stuff the day it comes out. So we'll see. I'm going to mess around with some stuff. So.
Yeah, I know you and I talked a couple months back already. I can't believe it's been a couple months already just about that. And I know for me, I'm going to be experimenting with some of that stuff too. I did my first ever pre-order actually in June for the last title that I released. Because I generally just don't do them. I mean, when I have something ready and done, I have a ballpark expectation date when that's going to be published, and I let my newsletter know about it. Mm-hmm. And then when it's done, and I publish it essentially, and then let them know that it's available. And so I haven't done a lot of the pre-orders, but I'm going to experiment with that myself, of doing some of the shorter, like you had mentioned, like a week, maybe 2 weeks type thing, and experiment with those, and basically say, because I'm going to be doing another kind of series, a serialized series. And the expectation is to release them roughly 2 weeks apart from each other, 2 to 3 weeks, something like that. Have them all written before then, and then, but still, like whenever one comes out, wait another week, maybe 2 weeks. Put a pre-order for the next one at a discounted rate, which that's one of the big benefits that I offer to my newsletter, is saying, hey, it's on pre-order for 99 cents or whatever. When it comes out, it's going up to $2.99, $3.99, whatever the case is. So get it now, and so that helps with the algorithms. It helps boost initial sales. You enter in, you show them some kind of scarcity with the availability of this discount and this sale run, so that gets people on the ball over the course of that first week. And then whenever it actually comes out, then it's available to the general public, and you up the price and hopefully ride the momentum then of the actual launch at a reasonable rate, not at 99 cents.
Yeah, and I experimented with that as well. When I put out book 2, I actually did the 99-cent thing to my mailing list, and then I raised the price a couple of days later, and the book still had about a month before it was coming out. And I ended up getting about 200 more pre-orders on that book than I did on book 3, but all the pre-orders on book 3 were at $2.99, so I actually made more money. But didn't necessarily get as high of a ranking. But the thing I'm going to, that pre-order button is really, really tempting, especially when you're, I'm in the 4th book of a series. So, the question I have to ask myself is it more important for me to go ahead and hook these readers with a pre-order right as soon as they are getting to the end of the 3rd book with a CTA, which we'll talk about, or is it more important for me to wait? Try to get them on my mailing list with a CTA, and then wait and try to get that big sales boom when it closer when it comes out, because it's really nice getting all these sales over a period of time when you're writing the book. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I have to question, would it be worth it for my series overall to get that big boost the day the book comes out, when I have a really big mailing list and stuff that I can hit? So, and that's the question. I don't know if it really is worth it when you're this far in a series to get the visibility on the further books, or if it's more important to get those sales, while you're for the pre-order over a couple months. So that's kind of what I want to mess with,
Well, I will say that getting the visibility on the later books still boosts visibility on the earlier books. right? So people see that book 4 come out or whatever the case is, and then they will go back and they will purchase book 1. Are you still selling book 1? Have you done a perma-free for that? Where are you at with that? Is that in KU? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I went perma-free with book 1 for about six weeks.
Okay.
And it worked out pretty well. And it got a whole bunch of downloads. I ran some ads. I got a lot of reviews. I got a lot of mailing list signups. But at the end of the day, I decided that I think I was a little premature on it, and that because I only took book 1 out of KU. And I'm just not ready to pull the next books out because they're still getting so many page reads.
Yeah.
And I figured I decided to reel it back in, and I think long term I don't want to be exclusive to Amazon. Long term I want to be everywhere. I think it's the best thing to do, but it's just too early for me, and I think it's going to make a lot more sense for me to be able to roll out that whole series like either at one time or over a very short period. Kind of once the whole series is done or almost complete. So I think that's the approach I'm going to take. So
I think that's a wonderful approach. I mean,
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that you're saying there, and what's nice to hear and that I want to call attention to, is that despite the fact that you're putting out your 5th book and you're writing your 6th and you've got these collaborations going on, you've had a lot of success, you're still treating it as though you're very early in your career, and you are. And so you're kind of, you still have that mentality of playing the long game, which is important. And so if you're seeing page reads and everything in KU, I think that's great. I think you should write it for as long as you can. Perma-free on the 1st book, especially now that you're going to have the 4th book coming out, if you were premature, I don't think it's by much.
yeah.
And so I don't think that's something that you really have to sweat over at all.
Yeah.
And so I think that, it sounds like you're really leveraging everything and you're really doing a lot of great stuff. You mentioned a lot of cool things, and so we did say we're going to be talking about CTAs, calls to action, right? And so, why don't we go ahead and launch into that topic? I will say, this is a live show. Everyone, we can see the comments, we can read them. I'm kind of monitoring them. People can see us, so
Me too.
You never know. I'm glad people can see us. I'm not gonna lie. We were on Google Hangouts for about 5 minutes before the show started, and we had enough issues to, remind us that we're on Google Hangouts. And
Zing, right?
And so, if you have any questions or any comments or anything like that as we continue the discussion, just let us know. Put them in there. Put them in the comments, and we will make sure we get to them. If you are listening to this after the fact, you can go back. It'll be episode number 149, and you can go on our site and check out the show notes for that, and all of the comments will be there so you can kind of follow with what's going on. But let's go ahead and launch into it. So calls to action. Nancy, I don't know if I think whenever I mentioned this to you, you were kind of maybe a little bit confused. I'm not sure if you were familiar with exactly what a call to action is.
I know what that is, but when you said CTA, I was temporarily like, oh, is this a term I should know? This is a term I should know. And then I had to scan for it. No, calls to action, we've talked about that with Zach before, but I guess I don't really understand maybe the finer details, or the strategy, I should say, of what that really looks like.
Well, perfect. Then we can discuss exactly that. So calls to action. Essentially, this is when you, it's what we do on the podcast. Everyone's going to be familiar with this. At the end of our show, oftentimes we'll say, hey, go leave us a review, right?
Right.
Or, hey, send us an email and let us know if there's any guests you want to hear or any topics you want to hear about. That's a call to action. That's, just making a request of the person who's either reading your book or listening to the podcast in our case. So same exact thing kind of goes on with a book. You're given this space, and you, especially when you're publishing yourself, you have the flexibility to put those kinds of things in the book. In fact, it was one of the things when we talked to, I believe, Libby Hawker about her having a deal with Amazon. It was one of the things that she was not allowed to put in the book by Amazon. And so that's a big consideration.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a big consideration because you can do a lot of things with calls to action, right? So, Zach, we wanted to talk to you about how you're using, because you're doing some really cool things with them. And so why don't we go ahead and hear what you're doing, and then we can kind of discuss the options, if you will, and kind of the purpose and the goals that you can use these for. So, Zach, how are you using calls to action in your book?
Well, I've been doing a lot of different things, which I mentioned to you before. I kind of have a little list of things here because I've been trying different things, which, that's one of the beauties for us, being self-published. You mentioned Libby Hawker, not being able to have any control over her CTAs, in a lot of traditional publishing, that's what it's like. And and a lot of those companies, they don't really understand the importance of CTAs as we do. I guess I'll go down my list and kind of go where I started, and we can discuss each one. The most common one is when I first put the book out. I didn't have anything really free to offer. I do give a short story away when people join my list, but I don't tell them that to join the list. And so it just once they join the list, it's just like, hey, here you go, here's a free short story. But what I did was, so my book 1 kind of ends on a cliffhanger. And book 2, of course, it came out about 3 months after book 1 did. So I put the very last page, or the very first page you see after the book is over, said to be continued. If you want to get updates, I don't remember exactly what the wording is, but it's something, get updates on this series, be eligible for exclusive contests, giveaways, things like that, click here, and I have the link. Now, the cool thing is, I know a lot of people, and I know Matt, I'm pretty sure you're real big on this, is, a lot of people advocate, having something to give away for your mailing list. And I think that's great. I think that you'll get a lot of, and I actually did that when I went wide. I actually offered, book 2 to people, which wasn't available on all the other platforms if they joined a list, because I wanted to kind of generate some, try to get a mailing list going for those other platforms. And but the cool thing about my list is that people weren't joining for the free thing. They were joining because they wanted to know about the next book or about other things I have going on. And what I found is that on my other, I have a really good open rate on my list. On the list that I use for like iTunes and all those when I was doing when I was wide, I've sent a couple emails out to those, and my open rate is abysmal. It is what it's making me think is that people are only joining that list to get another book for free. So and I know that that's not the case, and that a lot of people will get the free item, and then there can still be an active part of your list, and they could still buy future books and stuff. But like, I know that people who join my list like did it because they want updates, and it, like I said, it shows in my open rates and on my click-throughs.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn on it. So to be honest, to clarify a point you did say, I'm not sure where I stand on that, on offering. I have not actually offered a free book for a sign-up. It's something I've considered before, and I have never actually pulled the trigger. I'm considering going back because I have built up more of a backlist now, and so in looking at where I'm at right now, it might make more sense to do that, just to help drive sales of even further books. But I haven't for a long time, so I've got a few thousand subscribers on my big author mailing list, none of which have been given anything to sign up for that. And so,
that's great.
Yeah, and so I see a boost when I do those kind of promotions saying, hey, I've got a new book coming out, or hey, here's the link, go check it out. I see a significant boost in that because it is a high percentage rate of that list. I mean, they're there because they want to be there. They haven't been given anything to be there. And so I'm a little bit torn on it because it's not to say that if you do give away free incentive, right? If you give out that kind of reader magnet, as it's labeled, to get them to sign on the list, it's not like none of them are going to buy your new book. And so there's a couple factors that are going to have to go into it, like obviously your monthly subscription rate, like the rate that you pay your newsletter provider, MailChimp, Aweber, whatever you're using, that will go up. But the idea then is still that some percentage of those people who are doing it to get the free book, some percentage is still going to purchase a book when you launch it. And so I think it's just a decision that everyone needs to make. I don't think that there's a hard rule, especially earlier on. I do think that once you get to a point that you have a bigger backlist, I think it becomes more and more effective. Yeah. Because you're able to give away even more. And so you look at people like Mark Dawson, Mark Dawson, I know a couple other people as well. I mean, they give away 3 to 4 books for free. Yeah. When people sign up. They're not giving away 1 book. They're giving away 4 books because they have another 15 behind that they're trying to sell. Yeah. And so they can do that and still see a huge increase in both their newsletter subscriptions and their overall sales. Like I said, it's not like 0% of those people are going to then not buy your book. That is interesting to see about the other, or interesting to hear about the other platforms not, basically not buying into it. And it's interesting for a few reasons. So do you actually so whenever you have your newsletter, right? Do you create different lists to track the different signups from different vendors? Do you have multiple lists to handle that so you can?
Yeah, so what I did, so I have my main list I've had since the beginning, and that was only for Amazon because I was exclusive to Kindle Unlimited from the beginning. So when I decided to go wide, I made one other list, and I use MailChimp. And in MailChimp, you can do an option where when people sign up, you can give them. It gave them a little where they had to select like where do you buy your books from, and it was like Barnes and Noble, iBooks, and then you can use those tags. Like if you have an iBooks exclusive come out, you can choose just to send to those iBooks people within that one list. So that's what I did. So I have two lists. I have my main list, which is my, I guess, Amazon list, and then I have this other list, which, and let me also clarify, this other list is very small, because I was only wide for 6 weeks with this one book, and so I didn't get a ton of mailing list signups, even though I got decent traffic on those other pages, but still, I mean, the open rate, I mean, I'm telling you, it's close to 0%. So
it's interesting, and there are multiple ways. I've been working on this Author Strong Tutorials website, right? And it was one of my goals for this month. And I've been putting a lot of work into it. And I've just recently, this week, I've been putting a lot of work into the newsletter. I've been putting a lot of work into autoresponders, into that kind of free giveaway, the magnet, right? So I came out with this PDF guide and started to give that away. And so that's a lot of stuff that I've done parts of it before as an author, but a lot of it, I mean, I've never done the free giveaway thing in the launch, and I've never gone super in-depth on Facebook ads, and so that's been stuff that I've been messing around with lately. And so there are interesting ways that you can actually segregate out to newsletters, and you can actually do it. There are some things you can set up that can do it automatically, which is really cool. So like you said, you had a drop-down thing. There's actually coding like you can do to automatically add them to the same like master list, but also add them to give them a flag saying Barnes & Noble, iTunes, whatever. And so it's really interesting. It's too in-depth for us to get into right now when we're talking about CTAs, but there are ways to do some really cool stuff there as you really dig into it and mess around and play with it.
And I do want to clarify one thing too. Like I think that you brought up, like I'm not saying that like I'm against giving away a free book with my mailing list. I actually will do that eventually, but like you said, I don't have that backlist yet.
Yeah.
So like I'm just not ready to do that. And since I still get a decent sign-up rate, so like I'm happy with it. So that's something I can do later on when I have a bigger backlist. Like maybe when this one series is done, I put book 2, for free, or once book 1 is perma-free, so people essentially get the first 2 books for free, and I have them as a sign-up as well. So
yeah, it's really interesting. So so like you said, there's a lot of things you can do. So you're not quite ready for the reader magnet, and I think I'm pretty sure that's fun, especially like I said, especially with where you're at. I haven't done it. I think I have like 15 or 16 active titles right now with a lot that I've unpublished. And I haven't done it yet. I'm getting to the point where I want to for multiple reasons. So I may do that. I may not. I'll have to see how it goes. And then depending on how that goes, I may completely change my mind and be a big advocate for it or be completely against it. But there are a lot of things that you can. Sorry.
I was just going to say. Something else I did, it was along those lines, which I think actually made a big difference too, which, this is very common advice, is I also put that CTA in the front of the book. And I saw an uptick in mailing list subscribers when I did that as well, because I think, a lot of people, might just read the sample or whatever. And, it just gives you another opportunity to and I think especially if you do have something free to give away, having it in the front is essential, because people might read your sample and not buy the book, but they might sign up for your mailing list to get the free book to check you out. So I think especially if you're doing that, I think you have a lot of wasted opportunity if you don't have a CTA in the front as well.
Yeah, and so I do want to get around to that real quick. I will say again, just a reminder: anyone in the comments that are kind of watching us live, if you have any questions about any part of this, feel free to let us know. We are watching. So yeah, let's talk about that. Where all do you put your CTAs in your book? And then I have a feeling they're gonna be very similar to mine, but I can also share where I put all of mine. So where does the CTA appear in your books?
Yeah, so I have one. I'm trying to think where mine in the front is. I mess with my front matter a lot. I want to say it's like right after or right before my I have a little navigation page that's kind of my title page that has like my cover and then has like the links where you can skip to different parts of the book. And actually one of those links as well is to take you to my call to action page.
Yep.
But I believe it's right before that page. And like I said, it just basically says, get updates. I do different mailing list giveaways, and I'll talk about one of those here in a second because I do want to hit on some CTA stuff I did to generate reviews.
Yep.
Yeah. So and then I have one. It's also the very first thing you see when the book is over. That's the very first page you come to as a CTA.
And so a couple things there, and it reminds me of something from earlier. So where I put them in very kind of static places, and which might be good, might be bad. So fewer kind of mental calories burned because I always put them in the same place. But unfortunately, I'm not very good about following up, tracking after the fact to see where I'm actually getting signups from. So there are people who are very diligent saying, yeah. Where mine appear, they appear. Let me see if I can get this straight. I'm pretty sure I have a title page also, and I'm pretty sure under title by the author name, and I've got a newsletter sign up right after that. I've got one. I have a custom table of contents page that I usually do, and it'll appear on that as well. It'll actually appear not in the table of contents, but it'll appear like right under the title table of contents. Here's a newsletter sign up, and then I also put it. I've actually wavered. I've gone on to something different. So what follows immediately after the book ending is something different. I'll talk to that in a second.
Okay.
But I will also put it like on the about the author page, and then I have another special call to action. I actually have a call to action page that I have set up. That is the first page after the book ends. But immediately after a book ends, I have a link there, and I took this from. I got the idea, and I'm pretty sure they do something very similar, or at least they were doing it. Is Johnny, Sean, and Dave from the SPP crowd, and I got this idea from their Write, Publish, Repeat book. It's a great book. They have some great principles in there.
Yeah.
But what they do is they use the Pretty Links add-on or plugin, for WordPress, right? And so what they do is they actually say, like right after the book is over, because I write, this would work for anyone writing in a series. It works really nicely for anyone writing a serial, especially if they have a quick release date or quick release timing. But it basically says, go buy book 2. Here's a link. Go buy book 2 or go buy book 3, like whatever the next book is. Okay? And so when they click that, if the book is available, it redirects them to the book. If the book is not available, it takes them to my webpage to a newsletter sign up saying,
nice. That's
it's
cool.
not available. Sign up and I'll let you know as soon as it is.
Hey, I have a question. Our favorite Robert Chaz Shute says, doesn't the Kindle read automatically skip over the front matter and go straight to the first page of text? He says okay. So he says he thinks people are missing the CTA in the front anyway.
Well, but if someone is on Amazon and they click that look inside link,
good point.
on the page, that actually shows you the front matter.
I was going to say the same thing.
Shove it in your face, Robert.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Shove it in your pie hole, Robert. That's how it is.
No, he is right about what he said, though, when you actually open the book. But I know me, and I did this even before I was an author, I always click back anyway, and I like to see what's in the front of the book, even when I wasn't thinking about marketing stuff.
Yeah.
I would always look, so I think some people do.
It will skip over it. I know with Scrivener, you can hard code that beginning.
I was going to say that, too. Good point, yeah.
You can hard code where it actually begins, and so Amazon uses a tag that they read to find out the beginning of the book, and you can manipulate where that tag appears. So that's an option if you didn't want it to skip over the beginning call to action. Honestly, for me, I want the people to start reading. So I do put
me too.
the CTAs in the front. And if they see them through the, kind of look inside feature, whatever, great. It's not taking up much space. It's a line of text. It's not doing anything significant. But at the very end, I do have that button where they can go and they can click and they can, if the next one's available, great. Hopefully that's a purchase immediately because they want it. They click the button and it gets redirected straight to Amazon. They're ready to buy the book.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then they're going to be taken to a newsletter sign up. I'll speak to that here in a second. But on the very, very next page, when they click next, I basically have a big call to action saying, and this is actually for a review list specifically, saying, hey, you can sign up for my newsletter. Also, I have a review team. If you want to join this review team and get free copies of my future books, just sign up right here. And basically saying, hey, you can sign up to this, you get free copies. I will be frank and say that a very small percentage of the actual newsletter sign-ups actually go to that review list. So it's not like I'm cannibalizing from one to the other. It's a small percentage, and it's a percentage that I'm more than happy to take. But I have a whole call to action page for that.
That's cool.
That speaks to the other thing. You had mentioned this earlier, and this is a little bit off topic of the CTAs, a little bit, but it kind of ties in, is that you had mentioned maybe not doing a big pre-order for book 4, Empty Bodies 4, I believe. And you had said, I may not do it. I may do a short pre-order with the idea of getting more newsletter signups. I will say that in my experience, because I haven't done any pre-orders, I've about a year ago I started doing this idea of, a little over a year ago, started doing this idea of, here, click here to buy the next one, and if that's not available, it takes them to the newsletter signup. I will say that my newsletter signups went way up when I started doing that.
Mm.
And as soon as a series is complete,
Yeah.
they vanish comparatively. Right? And so I will say that tack of saying, click here to buy the next book, and if it's not available, shoot them over to a newsletter, works very well.
Nice.
Or
That's a
has
good
worked
idea.
really well for me. And
That is a good idea.
it's been a very serious consideration when I've said, do I want to do a pre-order or not? And it's hard because it's like, well, if they're clicking that button, they probably want to purchase. And so, yeah, when it's available, I definitely want to give it to them. But, okay, well, what percentage of those, like how soon do I want to be capturing sales on a pre-order versus getting newsletter signups? And so far, I've always opted with, I want the newsletter sign up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, yeah, and no, that's a really, really, really good point. And I mean, one advantage of the pre-order, is it does give you it does start generating your also bots early. You have a lot longer period of time that you can be in like the hot new releases and stuff, which my book was hung around the hot new releases in a couple of the horror categories. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I said. The great thing is we can experiment and stuff. I want to back up real quick and ask you one thing that I think would be very relevant to our readers. So you mentioned way on back, maybe 5 minutes ago, that we don't do a really good enough job tracking where in our books our stuff comes from. Yeah. So without us going on too big of a tangent, because I know we have a lot of stuff we want to get to, but for anyone who does want to track their books or where their clicks are coming in their books. Now, would you recommend doing that with like separate Bitly links? Where any kind of trackable link? Would you use one for the front, one for the back, or how would you, just in case people want to do it?
Yeah. 3 days ago, I would have said yes, Bitly. Knowing what I know now, I would get a little bit more complicated with it. Not much. And the reason I say that is, so Bitly is great. The only problem is it's just going to show you when people actually click through to sign up for a newsletter. It's not going to actually show you newsletter signups. So that's key. So there's going to be a little bit of a difference there, right?
That's true, yeah.
And so what I would say now is I would actually set up different landing pages on my website that would have just a slightly different URL and would be using a different custom form. And so what I would do is, and I can speak to it on MailChimp pretty quickly. So on MailChimp, whenever you go into sign-up forms and there's an area, you go to list. Once you're on your list, you'll go over to sign-up forms, and in the sign-up forms, it will say customize your fields, right? And so under customizing fields, I would add a hidden field for something like source, or like, essentially be like, where did they come from? You can just, whatever word you want to put in there, right? Source or location or whatever. And so for each of the different landing pages, so I'd have a landing page for table of contents CTA, end of book CTA, about the author CTA, different entire pages for each of those. They could be identical. They're just slightly different URL. And on each of those URLs, what I would do is on that form, and this doesn't have to get filled out by the person at all. They'll still see, name, email, whatever. But on that form, hidden, it will submit to my list where that location was coming from.
Nice.
So on the hidden field, it would say table of contents, and I would know this sign up came from the table of contents, or about the author, and so I would know this sign up came from about the author. This person clicked over from there.
Perfect.
And so what you can do from then is you can actually combine the two, right? You could do a bit.ly and what I just explained, and then you'll actually see how many people are clicking over to hit your landing page and how many are actually following through to sign up.
How many you're converting, yeah. That's perfect.
So you could use lead pages, and I started using lead pages for Author Strong, and I actually, it's expensive. It's an expensive monthly charge, but I love it. And so they show how many people saw this page, how many people signed up, what's the conversion rate. It integrates really smoothly with MailChimp. And that was where I first saw the idea of like using these hidden fields and being able to submit that kind of data so I know it on the back end. And once you set it up from the groundwork that way, then you can still put everybody in the same list, which is nice, really nice. But you can at least track more information and just have it buried inside of your list, so you can just immediately look at it and call it up. And so that is how I would, if you're going to get more in depth, that's how I would recommend doing that.
Perfect.
And so so now you did mention something earlier, Zach, that I did. It was the whole idea that I thought, hey, let's get Zach on to talk about CTAs. And that was one of the really cool things that you started doing with CTAs. I think you got the idea from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But that thing is that people are always wondering, like, how do I get reviews on my books? Because, like, I need book reviews to get sales, but I need sales to get book reviews. So what happens? How can I drive reviews? I've mentioned before the idea of using Goodreads. Some people are for that. A lot of people are against it, but that's fine. You're doing something a little bit different, a little bit unique, where you're combining a few of these ideas of reader magnets and generating reviews and etc. So explain to us, like, what are you doing with your CTAs to drive book reviews?
Well, there was a couple things. I'll talk about the big one first, the one I think definitely did the most. So to give a backstory, you said I got this from somewhere else. So a few months ago, I decided I mainly read horror all the time and like some science fiction stuff, but I was like, man, I really want to read a space opera. So I went on Amazon, I started shopping space opera, and I came across this book that had like 3,000 reviews, 3,000 reviews, and I'm like, holy hell. I'm like, okay, this has got to be good. There's obviously social proof here. And I'll name the book. The book was Dark Space by Jasper T. Scott, which I'm pretty sure is not Matt Morris. So he actually had a photo, so I'm pretty sure it's not Matt.
But probably not. It's not me.
But anyways, so I read this book, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the book. Got to the end and saw this call to action where he was giving away the second book in exchange for a review. And I was like, there it is. I was like, that's part of how obviously it was a very good book and it deserved the reviews, but I was like, that has to be a big part of how he's getting a lot of reviews. So I actually ended up buying the second book. But I was like, man, that's actually really cool, and it totally got me because I saw the reviews, I bought the book. Actually, I'm sorry, the book was perma-free, so I downloaded the book, which I'm sure that has a lot to do with the reviews too. But anyways, so I was like, man, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna put my book 2 for free in the back of my book. So basically, I changed my CTA. I kept my CTA in there for my mailing list, and I made it the second page you would see once you got to the end of the book. So for the first page, I put I think I put a picture of the cover of the second book. I don't remember, but I put get book 2 for free, and then I gave instructions on what you need to do. It was a easy 3-step process. I said go here, and I had a short link that would take you straight to the review page for my book, where you could go there and you could just click write a review and you can review. The second step was, when you write a review, Amazon sends you an email confirming that your review went live. So I told them to forward that email to an email address that I set up just for this. And then after that, within, I think I put like 12 to 24 hours. Within 24 hours, I'll send you the book, and then which I also put in parentheses. I'll probably get back to you way sooner than that. When I did that because I was getting a pretty good mailing list sign up, but I wanted to get more reviews. So within about 6 weeks, maybe a little less, I went from 83 reviews on my book to 185. So I mean, not bad. I mean,
Not bad at
get
all.
100 extra reviews.
Yeah, two and a quarter times as much.
Yeah, exactly. And what was cool is that my sell-through rate on the other books didn't really get affected at all. So I was still selling a lot of book 2, which was a big question a lot of people asked. The other cool thing is that when people would send me the reviews, I would send them a personal message back. It was somewhat scripted, but I would make sure that I put something in there that was personal, like I would comment on the review or something. But then I would have a call to action at the end of that email telling people, hey, sign up for my mailing list if you want to know stuff further. And I mean, almost every single person does it. So not only am I getting a review, but I'm also getting some mailing list sign up.
Yeah, you're having your cake and eating it too. Really clever.
Exactly. And I also have a link on there where they could, initially it was to pre-order book 3, and now it's on there to say that you can purchase book 3. So I don't know exactly what that, like, if there's a lot of conversion there, but it's there. But I'm definitely getting a lot of mailing list signups, and I've been getting a lot of reviews. I've actually taken that CTA out. It was working, but I wanted to give it a break for a little bit. Mainly because I had put on there that it was it was a special for that month that I was doing that, so I wanted to kind of stay true to that, even though most people probably aren't going to go back and see, oh, that's still in there. I'll do it again though, but it worked out really well, and gotten me a ton of reviews. So
yeah, you want to introduce that scarcity to give them kind of the motivation to actually act upon it.
The urgency. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so so we are winding down. We got about maybe a little over 15 minutes left in the show, so I want to again put out a call to if anyone's got any questions. I know we've got a couple, so I'll jump to them here in a second. But I think that's wonderful. It's a wonderful idea that you have, that inspired by someone else, essentially saying, look, here's my book for free. Read it, great. And if you like this book and you leave me a review, I'll go ahead and send you the next book. And so that's it's just another way of kind of giving people incentive and saying, hey, check it out. Now I know you did things kind of manually there. That's something I probably would have stayed away from, but there's a lot to be said for that. Not that I'm not saying that what you did was bad. It's just one of those things where it's like it takes up more time, and I hate spending time on things.
I think that makes sense though at the beginning. If that's what you're doing, like you take care of the people that you have.
Yeah,
I wanted signing up for it.
I wanted to make it personal, and something else I want to point out is that I put in the call to action, like, you don't have to leave me a good review. You can leave a 1-star review, and I'm still going to send you the book. I just want you to be honest. Now the good thing is that most people do leave a good review naturally, but I got, there were a couple of 3 stars in there and stuff, and that's fine, Yeah. And I don't, honestly, I don't want all 5-star reviews, Right. You don't want that. I have some pretty brutal 1-star reviews from an early edition of my book, when it was, before I had a additional edit on it, and I deserve those reviews, so it's totally cool. But you want to have that good mix, otherwise it just looks fake. So.
I remember reading somewhere, and unfortunately I don't remember where, but essentially to the effect that number of reviews is actually more important than the overall rating of the book.
Yeah.
And so
it's that little number in parentheses.
Look at I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Chuck Wendig just put out that new Star Wars Awakening book, or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called, and oh my God, his reviews are god awful. It's like, it's like Aftermath. Yeah,
Aftermath, that's right.
I think his overall rating on there is like two and a half. It's like 2.5.
You were not
stars.
kidding. Out of 964 reviews.
But go look at his sales ranking.
Well,
it's like 300 in the Kindle store.
of course, while he's surfing that one with the logo on the front, but okay.
2.6 out of 5 stars overall.
It's terrible.
Oh my god. And it's 400 pages.
Yeah, he's been making fun of it on Twitter and stuff, but
that's kind of funny.
But, you know, maybe that's kind of a weird example because it's Star Wars, but yeah. Did you want to get to some questions? I have another thing I can say about reviews, but if you want, I know we're running short on time, so if you want to hit questions, we can do that.
I mean, we don't have too many questions. One thing I did want to say is that if people don't know that you can do this, there's a way. So there's actually a way where you can send a link to somebody that will link them directly to the review of your book.
Yeah.
Right? And so the way you do this, and unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to be able to kind of write it out for everybody, so they're going to have to take notes or something, so I'll say it slowly. The way you want to do this is that you can create a URL, okay? So Amazon.com, www.amazon.com, right? /review /create-review create-review $ASIN equals, and then whatever the ASIN of your book is. So each item in the Amazon store has an ASIN.
That's cool.
Including your books. Yeah, and so Amazon.com /review /create-review $ASIN equals the ASIN of your book will take you to a review page for that book. So you can link directly to it and say, hey, click this link and leave me a review. And instead of linking just to the overall sales page and then making them scroll to the bottom and whatnot, so you can click and they'll get redirected directly to where they can leave a review immediately for your book. And you put all the stuff in there, and then you'll be good to go.
Yeah. What I do is you can do this as well. I go and I didn't know you could do that, so it's kind of cool. But I'll actually, if you can go to your page and just click the write a customer review, and it'll take you to the page to write a customer review, and you can actually use that link too. And I actually use an affiliate link. So
yeah,
once I'm on that page. So
I was about to say affiliate links. I keep meaning to do it, Nancy. Affiliate links is something I may have mentioned on our show, but we need to talk about them.
Yeah, I really do.
We need to have a discussion because like most people don't even know what an affiliate link is or how you can just make free money.
Because someone might
just free money.
Yeah, because someone might buy your book and then go buy an $800 mattress, which is what happened to me.
Exactly, and you get a percentage of that gross sale.
I got $50 off that.
Holla, that's great.
for no
awesome.
reason other than the fact that you build your affiliate code into the sales link.
Yeah. All my Bitly stuff is affiliate links.
Yep. And there's ways that you want to do that appropriately so that you actually get credit for it. One of the big things that I do on all my affiliate links is I redirect through my website, and so that Amazon knows it's coming from my website.
Yeah.
And just to make sure I get credit. But yeah, you can make money off that. It may not be a whole lot, but $100, $200 a month is possible. That's gonna, if you're at the point where you're making $200 in affiliate sales on book sales, you're making a lot of money on book sales.
Yeah, you really are.
But so that 100 to 200 or whatever the case is at that point is, I don't want to say jump change, but is closer to jump change than you would normally think. But that's still $100, $200 a month.
So
whatever the case is.
I don't want to waste too much time on this because this isn't the subject. But for just real quick, for people who don't know what we're talking about, Amazon has a program called Amazon Associates where you can become an affiliate, and every time someone clicks on one of your associate links, it will track them for 24 hours, and anything they buy on Amazon, it's not just that visit. It's anything they buy on Amazon within 24 hours, you actually get a percentage kickback for that.
Wow.
So it's really cool, and you can make some extra income. So
it's a percentage kickback that goes up the more sales you have.
Exactly. I think it's pretty good. So
yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean,
you got some questions?
I think so. We did have one, but review link is a great idea. So I know one person asked me just how many reviewers I have by doing that list. It's not that many. I think it's slightly over 100. Which
seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, Yeah, but they're not all going to review necessarily.
Right.
Oh, good point.
Let's keep things in mind here. One, they're not all going to review.
Yeah.
Two, they're not all going to review. Even the ones that do review are not all going to review on Amazon. Okay. And so, and that's really where I want reviews. And so,
Right.
Goodreads is nice, Barnes and Noble, Apple, they're all great. They're cool, but it's not Amazon. And so, I think I've mentioned on other shows before, and I think the person asking, I think they had mentioned earlier, this is one of the first shows they've been to. So welcome, thanks for joining us. But it bears repeating. Like, when you just keep going. If you're wondering if you have enough reviewers, you don't. When you stop wondering if you have enough reviewers, you might have enough reviewers. And so that's about all I can say. If you when you're at the point when you can launch, and within 48 hours of launch you have a few hundred reviews, then maybe you can start backing off. Like, until then, just keep getting more reviewers.
Just keep doing it.
Something I do, and this is I get this idea from Jay Thorne, is I have a link on my website that says become an empty. So in my empty buy series, my zombies are called empties. I don't use the word zombie. So it says become an empty, and it's like this long survey you have to fill out. But basically what it is it's like an exclusive Facebook group I have. And those people, it's a pretty small group, but we talk about all kinds of stuff. It's like a community, but those people, they get my books for free. They do a little bit of beta reading, some of them, and they all leave me reviews. It's a small group, but every single one of them leaves me reviews. So that's something, that's not a mailing list, but I got that idea, like I said, from Jay Thorne, and it's been cool because it's built me a community with some hardcore people that want to be involved with me behind the scenes. And I'll hit them up with ideas I have and stuff for story or character, and I'll ask them, hey, name a character for me, stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun.
You bring up some great points. So we are winding a little bit down. We got maybe 10 minutes left. Anyone who, if you do have questions, let us know. Put them in the comments. We'll see them. So real quick, a couple things I want to say to recap. CTAs, calls to action. You have space in your books. You have the freedom to put whatever you want in your books, right? Use them. Put a call to action before the book starts. Put a call to action after the book. What you're looking for to ask for, right? You might be looking for reviews. Hey, if you like this book, please leave me a review. Here's a link to make it easier. Go, check it out. Or hey, if you like this book, here's a link to buy book 2. Or if you like this book, sign up to my newsletter, and let's build that community. Like what Zach was just talking about. Build that community of readers that are passionate about what you're putting out there, and passionate about what you're doing. And so that they can connect with you, and they can continue kind of looking at what you've got going on. So that's the general idea of CTAs. You're asking for something, and what you might be asking for varies, right? So now, Zach, you did mention to put you on the spot a little bit. You did mention Jay Thorne a couple times in the show. Right? Yeah. And so you're working on a book with him. So that's cool. You're gonna have something coming out with him. I think you got something else going on with him also, though, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so he and I got a couple things going on. So man, that guy's busy. He's writing a book with Joanna Penn right now. He's writing a book with Glenn James, and then he and I are doing a trilogy together. We decided.
I forget the name, and I feel awful now for forgetting the name. But he put out I don't know what
Dark Arts Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he calls that, but
he calls it a video magazine.
That's right.
That's appropriate. That's appropriate. Yeah. And sorry, what was the name of it again?
Dark Arts Theater.
Dark Arts Theater. And,
it's I think all authors should go check it out because it's really innovative and out of the box. It's not exactly a podcast. It's kind of an internet show. It's all based around horror and heavy metal, and he's a horror writer, so it's really cool. He has an interview with Andy Weir on one episode. I'm on a few episodes. It's David Wright from SPP.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So
I mean, he puts a lot into the production of that. I definitely recommend if there's
took me 8 months to do the first season.
Even if you don't like what he's putting out, go check it out just from the sheer magnitude of here's something that don't cut corners, right? when you have a vision, execute on it and do it. And that's
Right.
a dark arts theater. It's I put a link in the show notes for this. Everyone can go check it out there. But Zach, you've got I think something else going on with him, right?
Yeah. So in addition to us writing a trilogy and some very innovative stuff that we're doing with that that I'm not ready to talk about yet, but maybe we can be on future show to talk about because we have a big idea for this. He and I are launching a podcast. It's kind of a relaunch. He used to have a podcast about a year ago that went on hiatus called the Horror Writers Podcast. And a couple of months ago, he and I started talking about the possibility of bringing it back. And he initially wasn't going to be involved, and then over talking and stuff, he decided to do it. So we're taking a different direction. Before it was, a podcast geared towards writers and writing advice, but we kind of decided there's shows like yours, there's shows like, I mentioned Joanna Penn, there's Simon, the SPP guys, there's plenty of people out there giving great advice. We didn't want to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rocking Self-Publishing, we didn't want to do that. So we're gearing it. We're keeping the name, the Horror Writers Podcast. We're rebranding. I just got all the logos from my graphic artist today. They look great. And it's basically going to be, we're going to have just talking about horror. We've already recorded 8 episodes. We're recording 4 episodes at a time. They're only 20 minutes long, 20 to 30 minutes. And we're stacking them so we don't have that weekly grind because both of us want to write books. We don't want to spend a bunch of time doing that. So, but we have some interviews. We interviewed T.W. Piper Brook, Dan Padavona. We did episode like top 3 Stephen King books. It's a lot of fun. So that's debuting October 4th. Will be our first episode, and you guys you'll be able to check that out at thehorrorwriterspodcast.com. We don't have the new site up because this is actually the first time I've even talked about it publicly. So we're just gonna kind of the page already has a lot of YouTube subscribers and there's already an audience, so we're just gonna kind of put it out there for people and see what happens.
That's gonna be exciting. As more and more of these shows kind of pop up, whether they are, I really like a lot of the book reviews, the niche book review ones. I mean, those are fun.
And actually, part of our show is we have a thing called the Horror Writers Book Club, and every month we're going to read a book and then let our audience submit questions and stuff, and then we're going to have an episode dedicated to talking about that book.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it with some of our friends of doing, or we had talked, it hasn't come up in a while, but we talked about doing, like the Author Strong Readers Club. And doing a show that would just be a monthly show, once a month, kind of just reading a book and doing something along those lines. So we might still follow that path. I really like that idea. We did have one question that just came in from HC Ritz, Hillary. We know her here from here in Houston. She says, Zach, how do you get your beta readers to all leave reviews? Do you just ask nicely every so often? And she says also hi. Thoughts on that? I actually have a lot of thoughts on nuance that was asked there, but I'll let you take a stab at it before we get out there.
I've been lucky. The trick is finding people that'll do it and actually will act like. So I've had a lot of people who I've had on a list to do beta reading or to do review reading, and a lot of them don't do it, and I keep track of those people, and then I don't email them the books again. I've kind of found a niche of people who actually will follow through and do it. It's not a lot of people, but as has been mentioned earlier in the show, I'm pretty new. So the big thing I do is I'm very personable, and I've done a lot of work connecting with my readers through automation on my mailing list and stuff. So autoresponders, 3 days after people email me or join my list, I send an email out saying, here's some books I love, all with affiliate links. And then ask them to shoot me back books, and then it creates conversation with those people, and a lot of those people have become readers, ARC readers and stuff. I've had people contact me that have left reviews on other books, and I'll ask those people, hey, I see you leave a lot of reviews. Do you want my books for free to review them? It's a tricky thing, but it's just you gotta kind of put yourself out there and be personable, and really it takes time. But I've been pretty fortunate. Like I said, it's not a bunch of people, but just ask.
What I'll say about my thoughts on they mirror exactly what he's saying. Ask, be nice. I mean, here's the thing: is people will warn you, and because I even advocate going to Goodreads and finding readers and kind of wrangling them in, right? And here's the thing: is a lot of people have a bad experience with that, or they'll caution, or they've heard, from a friend of a friend of a friend who knows the guy who had a bad experience on Goodreads. And the thing is, if you're just a decent human, people get that and they understand it. And most of them are decent humans also. And so if they're interested, they're going to follow through. And if they're not, they're not. And that's going to be the end of the exchange.
Yeah.
What I will say, the one thing I want to caveat here with the question, Zach, how do you get your beta readers to all leave reviews? So what I will say is that beta readers and reviewers are not the same thing, generally speaking. So just to caveat that, beta usually, especially this is in my case, Zach, I'm not sure how heavily you use beta readers. The people I use for beta reading, they're going to be from a range of people, though I still generally target readers. I don't generally target writers. I might mix some writers in, but I generally will target readers from the target audience that I want to be writing to as my beta readers. That's a separate group, and they're going to be getting way advanced kind of stuff and get feedback. And a lot of them do leave reviews. But I will say that the reviewer list is going to be just slightly different than the beta reader list, and the reviewer list will actually get final versions of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
And so just small caveat there. When we were talking about reviewers earlier and asking for reviewers, those are not necessarily beta readers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that was about it. One other quick question before we check out from someone who Andre Jeter, who asked a question a little bit earlier. But hey, Zach, when you launched your first book, did you pay for advertising? Zach, I'm not sure as far as paid advertising how much you ventured down that path.
The only ad I did on that book was, and it was a little bit afterwards, after it had come out, was e-reader news today. I did an ENT ad on it, and it did okay. I mean, it got a little bit of traffic, but honestly, it was mostly word of mouth. The big thing that happened for me was I got invited by a recent guest of y'all's, Chris Brogan. He had me on his podcast talking about just zombies and stuff, and I got a little initial push out of that. I don't think it was a ton, but I did things like that. I just kind of did some interviews and stuff. But to answer your question, short answer, not really. Just ENT. I didn't waste. I concentrated on writing the next book instead of doing a bunch of ads.
Yeah. That's something that we need to talk about generally. Here's the problem, and one of the reasons I've stayed away from getting really nitty-gritty on paid things that you can use. Other than, I mean, we mentioned BookBub quite a bit because they're the big dog, right? They're like the Amazon of the paid advertising world right now.
I've never had a BookBub, so.
Yeah, I've only had one, and so what I will say is that we haven't gone into too much nitty-gritty on our show about paid advertisements because to go into nitty-gritty and to start naming paid advertisers that work, unfortunately, that list is constantly changing. Essentially, other than maybe ENT's been pretty constant, BookBub has been very constant and very good at what they do. So I always mention them. But all the other ones, it's like, what's the flavor of the month? Like, this one's working really well right now, but next quarter it might not be working at all, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you kind of got to stay on top of it. Maybe we'll do an episode or something like that, just on the principles, the ideas involved in what you want to be targeting whenever you do paid ads. But using specifics is almost it's hard to do because people listening to this right now in September will tell them one thing, and if they listen to us a year from now, it may be completely different advice.
Right.
Paid ads on where you want the principle behind it would be still the same, but where you would go then would be completely different.
Just real quick, I know we're trying to get out of here, but I think what was much more important for me with that first book was I spent a lot of time studying and researching keywords. I made sure I got an edit. I wasn't a great at it. I ended up editing the book again later, but then I also made sure I had a great cover and a good product description and a lot of keywords in my product description. I think those things will help your visibility on Amazon almost more than ads will. So
I totally agree with you. I would say any budget you set aside for paid advertising on your first book,
put it towards editing, cover.
Yeah, I would say put that back into editing, put that back into cover. Put that back into, we just had Brian Cohen on the show. He's been on the show the last 3 days. He offers services where he will write your book description for you. And normally I would say, okay, figure out how to do it yourself. But honestly, this is something that will make you money. And
Yep.
Yeah.
not only will it say how to write your description, they'll say here's the things you need in your, like, you need editorial reviews in here, and they'll go up there, and you need your book description in here, and it needs to be written in this manner, right? We had Libby Hawker on to talk about how to write one of those, but you also need all these other things, and so use your money in something like that to get yourself set up correctly. Figure out the newsletter, figure out your funnel on how to get people from your book onto your newsletter to help you launch your second book. I wouldn't worry about paid advertisement on the first one.
People want to go to want to go to ads thinking it's going to be some kind of golden ticket, but it's not.
It's not.
I mean, it's and like you said, there's different flavors of the month, and I think a lot of people are getting kind of tired of all the traffic and stuff in their inbox. You know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Here's the thing with paid advertisements also. They work way better the more books you have.
exactly.
I would just get a solid foundation set up, keep writing above all else, and build that backlist, exactly what Zach's been doing this whole year. And then in the future, whenever you do figure out, okay, I've got everything set up, I've got a big backlist, then when you do a paid ad, you're going to see some serious results. I wouldn't worry about it too much in the beginning, especially if you are running on a limited budget. So I think that's about to wind it down. I think that's all the questions that we got to all the questions. We ran a few minutes over, but that's totally okay. I think. Nancy, I don't know if you had any other questions about CTAs or any other thoughts or comments on them or anything we didn't answer that you were curious about.
No, but I really like Zach's approach. I think that sounds like something I would probably just like want to do. I like forming that connection with people, even if if it starts getting out of hand, you're gonna have to like stop it or automate it some more or whatever. But I think that's really cool. I would be way more invested if I knew that an author like returned my email personally. Be way more interested in hanging around and checking out what else they had. So I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
And one more thing to add, because a lot of people ask me this, I'll be really quick. A lot of people ask me that they are terrified that people are going to have trouble getting the book on their Kindle using the Send to Kindle. I put a really quick sentence in there. I haven't had one person tell me they couldn't get it on their Kindle. So don't worry about that. People figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not hard, and
okay.
At worst case, if you had to write like a one paragraph thing explaining it to them, and then just have that at the bottom of your,
I get asked that all the time when I bring this review thing up and giving the book away. It's not one person has done it.
It's really not a big issue.
Yeah.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah. Well,
and if they do, just buy them your book and gift it to them. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Seriously.
That's also an option. Zach, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day or your evening at this point to come hang out with us a little bit. So why don't you go ahead and tell all of our listeners where they can find all of your books and find out what you've got going on.
So all my books are I'm in KU. I'm in Select, so you can find me on Amazon, just Zach Bohannon. My website's www.zachbohannon.com. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And check out the Horror Writers Podcast, thehorrorwriterspodcast.com. It'll be on iTunes. You can actually go listen to the back episodes now, even though they have nothing to do with what the show is going to. It's mainly writing advice, but even if you're not a horror writer, they had Joanna Penn on, David and Sean. They had some good guests, so go check out Horror Writers Podcast, subscribe on iTunes, all that good stuff.
Perfect. HorrorWritersPodcast.com, and then you can go check out all of his other stuff he's got going on. ZachBohannon.com. Again, links on all of the links to all of the stuff on the show notes. In fact, they're already there right now. If you guys scroll up, if you're in the comment section, most of those are already there, and I'm going to be updating them with some more later on. But thanks. I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with us. We're in September now. I forget what number live show this is, so it's been a lot of fun this whole time, and thanks for coming and hanging out. We may switch it up next month. Nancy and I were talking. We may do a blab next month instead of Google Hangouts.
Mm-hmm.
See how that goes. It would expose us to a different market, and we could still essentially do it the same way. I think it would be carried out a little bit different. We might do that. We're not sure. We'll test it out.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes. But thanks for everyone for coming and hanging out with us. You can shoot over to iTunes. This is the call to action section, by the way, if you want to pay attention.
Yeah.
Shoot over to iTunes, leave us a review over there, or shoot us an email, podcast@authorstrong.com, and let us know if there's any guests you'd like to see on the show, or if there's any topics you'd like to hear us cover. And so I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys again for coming on. We're going to do a quick after party. I'll be hanging out for a little bit, but I am doing the Self-Publishing Roundtable, which is another podcast we didn't mention. Self-Publishing Roundtable, I'll be on that show in less than an hour. So I'll be hanging out at an after party here for a few minutes, and then I'll be jetting off to go somewhere else. So thanks, everybody. So for Zach Bohannon, for Nancy Elliott, I'm Matt Morris. This has been the Author Strong podcast. Take care.